歡迎大家嚟到今日嘅記者。
Welcome to the press briefing today. Before we get started, we shall invite the Financial Secretary and his colleagues to take a few photos.
係咪都差唔多？未得，好啊！咁影完嘅可能烏低少少喎。可能都差唔多啦。好，唔該同事。好，今日陪同司長。
Thank you very much. With us today are Mr. Victor Lam, Government Chief Information Officer, and Ms. Jessie Wong, Head Budget and Tax Policy Unit, Financial Secretary's Office. Before we get started, Mr. Paul Chan and Mr. Lam will first walk us through a slideshow. Good afternoon. The budget this year announced the disbursement of $10,000 worth of consumption vouchers this year. The first instrument was disbursed in April, and today we will talk about the phase 2 disbursement from August this year. A total of $5,000 of consumption vouchers would be disbursed in phases. Before we go into the details, I'd like to talk about our principles. So on the basis of providing the greatest convenience to the public, we would streamline the procedures while adopting views from the public, and we will strive to maximize the benefits of the consumption vouchers. First, we are now offering more options. 2 new stored value facility operators were introduced, bringing the total to 6 operators. We believe these operators will be providing more concessions, so the public may take their time in comparing the services offered before making a decision. On one hand, we can offer more choices and concessions to the public while promoting the use of stored value facilities in Hong Kong. And hopefully with the consumption vouchers, we can stimulate consumption. Since the electronic consumption voucher scheme was rolled out last year, the store value facility operators saw a growth of 6.65 million individual accounts as well as 130,000 merchant accounts. Hopefully, the stored value facilities can provide greater convenience to the public going down the road. For individuals who do not wish to switch to a different account, no re-registration is needed. For those who are newly eligible or for those who would like to switch to another stored value facility account, they may register or amend their particulars online. For those who encounter difficulties with the online registration system, we will set up service centers where our staff can offer help. And on the other hand, we have streamlined the operation of the scheme based on the views offered. Having considered these views carefully, we have refined the arrangements. In terms of the definition for eligible people, we made adjustments, and where possible, we would expand the scope of people who could benefit, and we will walk you through the details in a moment. Basically, we would strive for convenience and simplicity, and we would also encourage people to try out different stored value facilities while maintaining flexibility for the scheme, and we also want to promote the development of electronic payment, which would in turn boost the economy. Now, I would walk you through the slideshow. Like we said, the budget announced that each eligible Hong Kong permanent resident and new arrival aged 18 or above would be eligible for electronic consumption vouchers worth a total of $10,000 by instrument. $5,000 were disbursed under Phase 1 on April the 7th, and 6.3 million people benefited. In terms of the eligibility criteria, we took in views from the public, and we have imposed 3 eligibility criteria. That is, an individual must be age 18 or above on or before today, and as of today, the individual must be a Hong Kong permanent resident or a new arrival. And the third criterion is a new one. That is, a Hong Kong resident not belonging to the types of persons referred above who can become a permanent resident. Recently, we heard views from the public as well as LegCo, and some people called for the scope of beneficiaries to be expanded. And as such, Hong Kong permanent residents or Hong Kong residents who can become permanent residents would be eligible. And these include talents, professionals or entrepreneurs who arrived in Hong Kong, or those who came to Hong Kong as students. They would be entitled to 50% of the vouchers. And the third criterion includes those not having permanently departed from Hong Kong nor having such intention. And again, some people were of the view that those who have migrated to other places should not be eligible, and such views were justified. For Hong Kong people who wish to migrate elsewhere, they do not need to make a declaration to the SAR government, and there's no way we can determine whether their departure from Hong Kong amounts to migration. And last year, we attempted to draw a line by assessing whether a person was away from Hong Kong for continuously for 24 months. If a person has been away from Hong Kong for 2 consecutive years, they would not be eligible for the consumption vouchers.
And having reviewed the criteria, we would like to seek some improvements. We'll consider whether a person has permanently departed from Hong Kong or have such intention. And so we have a number of considerations here, and that is from during the period of 18th of June 2019 to 12th of June 2022, whether the person has been continuously absent from Hong Kong, not because of any specific reasons. Those who have gone to a foreign country for furthering their studies or have been sent to work in an office outside Hong Kong will be considered eligible. Otherwise, if they are absent for no good reason, that they would not be eligible. And secondly, we consider whether the person has submitted a claim request to withdraw many MPF or also benefits before the age of 65 on the grounds of permanent departure from Hong Kong. And also we will consider whether the person is holding a locally issued Hong Kong permanent ID card, and also whether there is any evidence or information that makes the government believe the person has no intention of returning to Hong Kong in the foreseeable future. As I've said, every eligible registrant under the consumption voucher scheme will get vouchers valued at 5,000 if they are eligible under item B1 or B2. That is those who are not permanent residents, and for new registrants, they will get $10,000 this time. For the stored value facilities, apart from Alipay Hong Kong, Tap and Go, WeChat Pay Hong Kong, and the Octopus card that joined the scheme last time, now we have PayMe, additionally PayMe and BOC Pay. For those who have no intention of switching to another SVF, there's no need to change to register again. We would assess the eligibility based on the information furnished last time, and if they are eligible, they will receive the vouchers. As for those who have not registered before, or those who wish to change to another SVF, they will have to register or revise their registration records through online platform. The registration period starts from the 23rd of June and ends on the 23rd of July. There's ample time to do this. The time of registration is not relevant to the date of receipt of the vouchers. So, all in all, what you need to do is to use the electronic registration portal in the scheme website. If there's a need to get help, you can visit any one of the 8 temporary service centers. I'll now invite Ms. Wong to tell you more about the registration procedure. How are the vouchers to be distributed in phases? For those who are new registrants or who are amending registration records, they can use our online electronic registration portal. You can visit our electronic portal in the scheme website, and then you have to authenticate your identity. That is, you just show us the ID, and we'll check and to see whether this person is an existing registrant. If so, then there will be some security questions for the registrant. For example, the telephone number provided last time and the SUV that they opted last time. There will be a few security questions of that kind, and after that is done, we would show the information provided to us in the last phase of the voucher scheme. And if there's a need to change anything, for example, in respect of the SUV that they would like to use, that they can make amendments or update the registration information. If last time they did not provide any telephone number which would be able to be used for SMS, then we encourage these registrants to provide a telephone number that can do exactly that, because I would like to provide the SMS information for eligible applicants. So if that's done, then make a declaration on eligibility, and that will be all. Some people may not be able to answer the security questions. Then they can fill in a new form, an electronic form through the platform. And what you need to provide is your name, your phone number, and the SUV for the purpose of receiving the voucher, and the relevant account number of the SUV, and then you just confirm your make a declaration on your eligibility. And then you can submit the application form after you have completed all the details. Whether you are furnishing a new application or you are amending the registered information, you get an SMS message in a week's time confirming the change or the registration. As we have announced, if existing registrants do not need to change anything, for example, do not need to switch to another SVF, then there's nothing for the person to do. All you need to do is just wait for our SMS to confirm your eligibility. So you know whether your application has been accepted and you are eligible for the consumption voucher. So I would like to make an appeal here. Whether you are making a new application or you are amending past registration information, you can only make one attempt. Don't try to change the SVF after successful registration, because there's no procedure to allow you to do that. So people don't have to rush in. They can consider carefully before they make the application or the amendments. We have provided some APIs which would tell you exactly the procedures to follow. As I've said, for existing registrants, they would answer some security questions, and for new applications, you have to upload your Hong Kong ID card copy or use IM Smart app, but you need to register your account under the IM Smart app, and then you can go to our website for this voucher scheme. As I have already said, the procedures are straightforward. But if applicants do need someone to help in completing the procedures, they can go to one of our service centers, temporary service centers, 5 in Hong Kong and Kowloon, and another 3 in NT. The opening hours are from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. from Monday to Saturday, excluding public holidays. We don't want people to wait at the center. They can get a prior appointment using our reservation telephone number. There are 8 centers to choose from, so people can make an appointment, and then when they go to the center, there will be no need to wait for service. Some of the NGOs are serving eligible applicants, registrants. They can use the same reservation telephone number to make appointments for their service clients. If they have some suitable premises for us to use, we can also send an outreach team to the NGO to register the applicants for all the registrants, whether new or existing ones. They will all receive the first voucher on the 7th of August, 2022. For those who are going to receive $5,000 of a voucher, there will be 3 vouchers. The first voucher 2,000, second voucher 2,000, and the third voucher 1,000. And the first voucher will be dispersed on the 7th of August. The second one, the 1st of October. And when you have a cumulative total spending reaching 4,000, you will receive the third voucher. As you can see from this table, is for if you have spent the $4,000 by the 30th of November, then you receive the last $1,000 on the 16th of December.
唔緊要嘅，咁
For those who want to take their time spending the vouchers, so long as the eligible spending has reached a total of $4,000 by the 31st of March next year, they can receive the third voucher by the 16th of April 2023. In other words, people can spend or make the eligible spending for up to 8 months, and for those who attain the eligible spending earlier, they may obtain the voucher sooner. For the 5 other store value facilities, Alipay Hong Kong, BOC Pay, PayMe, Tap & Go, and WeChat Pay Hong Kong, the vouchers will be dispersed in 2 phases. The first voucher is worth $2,000, distributed on August the 7th, and the second voucher would be $3,000, dispersed on 1st of October. The expiry date for both will be the 28th of February next year. In other words, everyone will have 7 months to spend the vouchers. For the $10,000 consumption vouchers for new registrants who choose to receive the vouchers through Octopus, the first voucher will be $3,000, dispersed on 7th of August. The second voucher, $3,000, dispersed on the 1st of October. Third voucher, $3,000, dispersed on the 1st of December. The fourth voucher is $1,000 when the cumulative total eligible spending has reached $9,000. The fourth voucher of $1,000 will be dispersed on the 16th in the following month. In other words, everyone will have about 10 months to spend the vouchers. If your cumulative total eligible spending have reached $9,000 by the 31st of March next year, they can receive the fourth voucher on the 16th of February. At the latest, if the cumulative total eligible spending have reached $9,000 by the 31st of March next year, they will receive the fourth voucher on the 16th of June. In other words, one will have around 10 months to spend the $9,000, or about $900 per month. So for those who finish the voucher sooner, they will receive the final $1,000 voucher sooner. For those who are not using the Octopus, well, let me repeat the names of the 5 other SVFs. Alipay Hong Kong, BOC Pay, PayMe, Tap and Go, WeChat Pay Hong Kong. The $10,000 will be dispersed over 3 phases. The first voucher is $3,000 dispersed on August the 7th. The second voucher, $3,000 dispersed on the 1st of October. The third voucher, $4,000 dispersed on the 1st of December. Again, they share the same expiry date. So if you like, you can spend these vouchers together. They will expire on the 30th of April next year. So for those who use the Octopus, they must carry out one more step. One must tap the Octopus card before the vouchers would be stored in the card, and you may go to the PTFSS subsidy collection points or 7-Eleven, Circle K, Welcome, etc. No consumption is needed. You simply tell the staff that you wish to collect the consumption vouchers and tap your card, then you can receive the vouchers. You can also use the Octopus service points or the Octopus mobile app. If you use the Octopus app, there's no need to register your card in the app. Simply enter the number of your Octopus card to receive the vouchers. The second vouchers would be dispersed at different times, and the deadline for collection is the 30th of September 2023. So there's plenty of time to tap your card. For the 5 other stored value facilities, there's no need to carry out such step. The vouchers will be injected into the SVF accounts directly. So by launching your mobile app, you can choose to pay with your vouchers. So the usage of the vouchers is the same as last year. The vouchers can be used at local retail, catering, and service outlets or their online platforms. The following transaction items are excluded. These include payments to the government, such as taxes, payments to public utilities, such as water and electricity tariffs, payments to public organizations, such as the hospital authority, education expenses, purchase of financial products or services, donations, direct purchases from merchants, including non-local online platforms located outside Hong Kong, person-to-person payments, and encashment. These are disallowed transaction items. Finally, some tips. If you do not wish to switch to a different SVF or SVF account, no action is needed so long as we confirm that you are still eligible. The vouchers would be dispersed to your registered SVF account. Please also provide an SMS-enabled local mobile phone number. The reason is that we might issue reminders from time to time via SMS. So if your mobile phone number has SMS function, then things would be more convenient. For new registrants or those who update their SVF account information, please ensure that the information is accurate. If the particulars are erroneous, then that might affect the receipt of the vouchers. The government and contractors appointed by the government will only make calls or issue SMS messages via a designated telephone number. So you may look up these designated phone numbers online. So if you receive calls in relation to consumption vouchers and the calls come from an unknown telephone number, you must be extra careful. And the idea with the consumption vouchers is to boost the economy. So by spending together, we can boost our economy, and in turn we can boost employment in different industries, and that's why the consumption vouchers cannot be encashed.
一齊全力
So let's spend more to boost the economy. Okay, now we'll take questions. We will now invite questions. Please tell us the organization you represent before you raise your questions. FS, you have a new rule this time. That is, if you have an intent to leave Hong Kong, you are not eligible. But there are non-permanent Hong Kong residents who receive half the voucher value. So is it a contradiction? Well, because people having an intention to leave Hong Kong is still a Hong Kong resident. And also for the ceiling of store value for Octopus card is $3,000. We have been told by the government that this is not the ceiling set by the government. Would the government urge the Octopus to raise the ceiling so that it's not that troublesome for recipients, that they have to get the voucher in a number of installments? Or would there be a problem if someone has not spent the first voucher in full and then they want to switch to another SPF? Which organization do you represent? TVB. We have made some adjustments to the eligibility criteria. This is because we have now implemented this voucher scheme for a year, and we have heard some views from the community, including electrical members, asking whether we should also give a consumption voucher to non-permanent Hong Kong residents. We want to boost the economy by boosting the spending, and it's a good idea to let more people benefit from the scheme. So, apart from Hong Kong permanent residents, last year we also covered new arrivals. Those who come from on a one-way permit, and they do intend to settle in Hong Kong permanently, so they were eligible last time. And not this time, we have also to consider the case of people admitted through special tenant admission schemes, etc. If they are not subject to any restriction, that is no employment, etc., in their visa, then they will be eligible as well this time, but the voucher value will be halved. We have seen similar rules adopted in some neighboring economies. We hope that by covering these people, we can boost the economy even further. 2 years ago, we gave everyone $10,000 in cash, and last year we dispersed electronic consumption vouchers. Then some people query why those who have emigrated were also eligible for the consumption voucher. In Hong Kong, you do not need to make any declaration to the government if you want to emigrate to another country. And we don't have any record as regards who have emigrated. So last year, we announced the scheme on this 18th of June. We said if prior to that date, for 2 years, you were not in Hong Kong, you were absent from Hong Kong, you would not be eligible. At this time, we want to further refine such criteria, because we have heard quite a lot of comments and views. That is to say, if for those who have left Hong Kong permanently or who have an intention to leave Hong Kong permanently, they will not get the voucher. That's a response to the opinion that we have heard. The second question is about the store value ceiling of octopus. Of course, we can change the law to allow for the ceiling to be raised. That can always be done if appropriate. But we have talked to the octopus card company. Making such an adjustment would require computer upgrades. And octopus card can be used by many merchants. So they need to make adjustments not just to their own computer system, but also to the outlets, the merchants that are using their system. So we don't want to make things too complicated. So we would just allow. We think we should just allow the ceiling to be maintained this time. All right. So it's okay. There's another question about switching to another SVF before you have spent the entire voucher value. Well, you can always wait until you spend all the amount in the first voucher and switch to another SUV for the second voucher. FS, for those who have come to Hong Kong on one-way permit from the mainland, are they eligible? And for mainland people coming to Hong Kong to study in a 1 or 2 year course, would they be eligible? Would you be criticized for covering too many people? And how do you ascertain the intention of Hong Kong permanent residents who want to leave Hong Kong permanently? How is the assessment going to be carried out? If this is to be done by the contractor, how much cost will be involved? And also why this time? All the SVF would involve phased payment, not just octopus card. Well, we'll look at whether the person has already been issued a Hong Kong ID card. For those who have yet to come to Hong Kong, they don't have an ID card. The immigration department will vet the applicant, the registrant, to see if they are eligible under the announced criteria. It's not done by our contractor. This is done by the immigration department, and our contractor would help us in a number of ways. For example, whether the person has been away from Hong Kong for a long time, that is to say that they are absent from the 18th of June 2019 to the 12th of June 2022. In this regard, the contractor would make some checks, random checks among the registrants. So anyone can be chosen for the vetting, and the registrant will be asked to furnish information to prove their eligibility. As for the two new SUF operators, they would charge the same service fees, and that is calculated on the basis of a successful registrants opting for that particular SVF. So the introduction of new SVF operators will not increase our costs. So it's either the administrative fee is to be shared by 4 or 2 registrants.
As for the total administrative costs, for Hong Kong permanent residents and new arrivals, we expect about 6.5 to 6.6 million people to be eligible. So multiplied by $10,000, it will come to $66 billion. For Hong Kong residents who could become permanent residents, they would be eligible for $5,000. We expect this to cover about 300,000 people, amounting to about $1 billion. The gentleman in white, please. Good afternoon, this is Now TV. As for the new criterion for those who permanently depart from Hong Kong, and the period begins from June 2016. 2019? Is there a special reason for that? Was it related to the anti-extradition law? And for persons who have no intention of returning to Hong Kong in the foreseeable future, and what kind of evidence would that amount to? For example, photographs taken at the airport. Is this a speculation on one's motivation? And the original plan was to disperse the vouchers across 2 phases, and now the second phase is further divided into 2 batches. I will invite Ms. Wong to answer the first 2 questions. The period begins from June 2019, and last year, when we made the announcement, the period defined was 28th of June 2019 to the 21st of June 2022, and this time we are aligning the date of departure from Hong Kong with that period. For those continuously absent from Hong Kong 24 months prior, I see that during the pandemic, many residents returned to Hong Kong. So we find it reasonable to align our requirement with the period announced last year. And as such, the existing registrants do not have to make new declarations because they had made a declaration last year. As for the new factor on whether there's any evidence or information that makes the government believe that the person has no intention of returning to Hong Kong in the foreseeable future, last time the criterion was an objective one, that is, one is continuously absent from Hong Kong 24 months prior, and this time the criterion is not having permanently departed nor having such intention. We would look at the relevant factors. We would look at the 3 factors. First, whether your Hong Kong identity document is issued in Hong Kong, and whether one has been continuously absent from Hong Kong from the 18th of June 2019 to the 12th of June this year, and on today or before today, was any valid application or claim filed for withdrawal of MPF or Occupational Retirement Scheme benefits. And if that's the case, a statutory declaration must be made for permanent departure from Hong Kong. And as such, a person could produce proof to show or otherwise whether he or she is permanently or intends to permanently depart Hong Kong. As for the disbursement of vouchers across 2 phases, when the first phase was disbursed, it was done under the backdrop of COVID. The 5th wave seriously affected the lives of many people. So back in April, when the first voucher was disbursed, the main objective was to disperse the vouchers as soon as possible to relieve people's burden. And that is why we dispersed the $5,000 in one go, but for Octopus it was $4,000 plus $1,000. For the second phase, we hope that the consumption vouchers can also boost the economy, and having learned from our experience last year, according to a study conducted by TMHK academic, for the $5,000 of consumption vouchers dispersed last year, many people actually spent beyond that with their own money. So the extra spending was approximately 80 to 120% of the consumption voucher. So, in other words, many people spent an extra $4,000 to $8,000 out of their own pockets. The vouchers were dispersed in phases last year, but most people were happy about it, and many industries could benefit as a result, like they could benefit sustainably. That's why we are using the same model this year. Next question, please. Good afternoon, this is Hong Kong 01. For the ineligible persons this time, they include those who intend to depart permanently from Hong Kong. So how is this defined? If I decide to migrate 6 months later, I have booked my tickets, but now I'm still in Hong Kong. So are these people considered having an intention to depart permanently? For the new criterion, for those who have permanently departed or having such intention, they are no longer eligible. How many people might fall into this category? In terms of administrative costs, more vetting is involved this time, and 2 new SVF operators are involved. And has the administrative costs gone up? For people who are not currently permanent residents, they would be eligible. But for those who permanently departed or intend to permanently depart, they are permanent residents, they pay their taxes. Do you feel that this could be unfair to them in terms of administrative costs? For the consumption voucher scheme last year, our budget was $600 million, but at the end we only spent $250 million. This year, the vouchers will be dispersed across 2 phases, and we have new SVF operators, and manpower will be reinforced. So the expenditure will increase slightly. Meanwhile, as for the definition of eligible people, perhaps I would invite Ms. Wong to explain it once more. As for those who intend to permanently depart from Hong Kong, like we said on the slideshow, for those who have permanently departed or intend to permanently depart from Hong Kong, well, there were people who doubt why we disperse vouchers to those who are leaving or migrating. Under the MPF scheme's ordinance, if permanent departure from Hong Kong is used as a reason for early withdrawal of the MPF, well, this is actually the same concept. Of course, there must be some evidence. So we would consider relevant factors, including whether the permanent Hong Kong identity card is issued locally or abroad. If it is issued abroad, then it's very likely that one does not reside in Hong Kong. Otherwise, if one stays in Hong Kong for 30 days, they must switch to a locally issued card. And we would also assess whether one is continuously absent from Hong Kong. If that's the case, we have reason to believe that you have migrated elsewhere. So from 18th of June 2019 to 12th of June 2022, if you have been continuously absent from Hong Kong, well, this is a factor we would consider. And on today or before today, did you file a valid claim request for withdrawal of MPF or occupational retirement scheme benefits on the grounds of permanent departure from Hong Kong? This is something we would vet with the MPF authority. So these are the three main factors we would consider. But as we communicate with the public, they might submit other information to prove that they are eligible. So the fourth factor is whether there's any other evidence or information that makes us believe that the person has no intention of returning to Hong Kong. So there might be arguments on what is meant by permanent departure. So we will see if there's any evidence showing that one will not return to Hong Kong in the foreseeable future. So that's the case.
係後排最遠嗰位。
The lady at the back row.
I'd also like to ask about the new criteria that you're having, that you're excluding those who are considered to have permanently departed Hong Kong or having the intention to do so. Can you explain what are the reasons behind? And can you also talk about how you can tell, especially for people who have the intention to leave Hong Kong, how can you tell so apart from the evidence or the things that you're looking on based on their Hong Kong ID, based on whether they've made claims on MPF withdrawal? What are the other evidence you're looking for? Say, for example, would you be looking at their social media or any other announcements that they made, or other bank what other details? And also, you're expanding the scheme to non-permanent residents who are eligible to become one. Again, what are the criteria, and will you be looking at things like how long they've been in Hong Kong, and when will their, say for example, work contracts end? Things like that. Thank you.
As regards the new requirement of not having permanently depart from Hong Kong or have such intention, in fact, this is an improved requirement as compared with the residing in Hong Kong requirement last year. When we examined whether a registrant can meet this requirement, we will take into account relevant factors. The major factors we will look into is, firstly, whether the registrant has been continuously absent from Hong Kong during a certain period. The period is starting from 18th of June of 2019 and up to yesterday. That is the 12th of June of 2022. If the registrant has been continuously absent during this specified period, which is nearly 3 years, then we will consider him or her as having permanently left Hong Kong. The other factors we will take into account is whether the registrant has submitted a valid claim request for withdrawal of a mandatory provident fund (MPF) or occupational retirement scheme benefit before age 65. That is the early withdrawal. According to the ordinance, if they apply for early withdrawal on the grounds of permanent departure from Hong Kong, if the registrant has submitted such a valid claim on or before today, then we will consider him or her as having permanently depart from Hong Kong. Because when he or she submit this valid claim request, he or she needs to provide a statutory declaration that he or she is going to depart from Hong Kong permanently. So this is one of the factors that we will take into account. The third factor is whether if the registrant is a permanent resident, we will see whether the permanent ID that he or she is holding is a locally issued one or overseas issued one. If it's an overseas issued one, then we will consider him or her as having permanently depart from Hong Kong.
Or apart from the ones you listed?
We can't include all the factors. These are the three main factors we will take into account. If the registrant that we based on these factors consider him or her as not eligible, then he or she can come forward and then she can provide information to demonstrate whether he or she has permanently departed from Hong Kong. The third factor that we include, that is whether there is any evidence or information that the government believes the person has no intention of returning to Hong Kong in the foreseeable future. This factor is to provide the government with necessary flexibility to handle individual cases that we may we may get in touch.
Including non-permanent residents in the scheme.
There is no minimum period of stay for those non-permanent residents now included in this particular scheme. Basically, if they come to Hong Kong, they will be given a Hong Kong resident ID. For some people, no matter how long they stay, they would not be able to qualify as permanent resident. So for those people, we exclude them. Otherwise, we will include them and give them half-rate voucher. Excuse me? 聽唔到，對唔住 ，sorry.
I can't hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. I beg your pardon. Well, in the past few months, we have heard suggestions from the Legislative Council and many different people and organizations in the community suggesting us to include those non-permanent Hong Kong residents into the scheme. Having regard to the regulations of the Immigration Department, we think that by drawing the line, referencing to eventually whether one can be eligible to become a permanent resident, is legally the safest criteria. And we estimate the total number of people that will benefit from this relaxation would be in the order of about 300,000. The total 300,000 to 350,000. The total expenditure would be around 1.5 billion to 1.7 billion, which is, from a financial standpoint, affordable. And the idea of the consumption voucher scheme is to try to stimulate the economic activities. And this is an initiative welcomed by the general public in general. So we do think that given the affordability, given the overriding objective of stimulating the economy, it would be good to include additional beneficiaries so that we can share the joy of spending the consumption voucher together. Thank you.
好，最後兩題。灰色恤衫嗰位男。
Last two questions. The gentleman in gray shirt. I'm from Oriental Daily. FS, you said the relevant period is from the 18th of June 2019 to 12th of June 2022, and the person who has been continuously absent will not be eligible. How do you define the continuous absent? Some might have just left Hong Kong. Would they be eligible? And also for the elderly, the Hong Kong residents residing in the mainland through the and they are eligible for the Guangdong scheme or another similar schemes, will they be eligible? And for this phase, Octopus card holders will have to receive the vouchers in 3 installments. So it's a 2,000, 2,000 and 1,000. Why don't you do what you did last time, and that is 4,000 plus 1,000 in 2 installments, and there are more SUVs included. How many people would switch to the new SVF according to your estimate? And also the next voucher will be dispersed in August. What kind of status would you be in witnessing the new scheme?
Thank you for your questions. The period we define begins from the 18th of June 2019. Like we said, when we made the announcement on June the 18th last year, we counted the 24 months before that. And likewise, if we do the same this year, the period should begin in 2020 instead of 2019. But having regards to the COVID-19 pandemic, the black clad violence we saw, it was difficult for certain people to return to Hong Kong. That is why we adopted a more linear approach. That's why instead of using a 24-month period, we stuck with the same start of the period adopted last year. So for people who came to Hong Kong even for a few days, they would be considered eligible. So even if they stayed in Hong Kong for 1 day, they would be eligible. For people who joined the Guangdong scheme or Fujian scheme, and since our criteria are very much relaxed, many would be eligible. For those who receive the vouchers with the Octopus card, the vouchers would be distributed in 3 batches. For the technically speaking, money in the Octopus card account could be spent on anything the user likes. So we would wait to see whether the spending is eligible before we offer the next batch. The policy objectives of the first and second vouchers were a bit different. The first voucher was distributed in April. We experienced the 5th wave of the pandemic, and many were under hardship. So for the first voucher, we wanted it to be dispersed to the public as soon as possible. For the second batch, we considered another objective of the consumption vouchers, which is to boost the economy. Last year, the consumption vouchers were distributed in phases according to a TMHK study. Like I said, many people spent extra out of their own pockets, or $4,000 to $8,000. And last year, we saw very positive market sentiments. About 60% of the total sum of the vouchers went to the retail market, 20% to food and beverage industry, and part of it 3% went to transportation. So we hope that the consumption vouchers would have a sustainable benefit. The speaker is not coming through the microphone. It's impossible to make such an estimation because we do not know how many people left Hong Kong or whether they were in Hong Kong the whole period. As for those who joined the Guangdong scheme or Fujian scheme, like we said last year, those who are continuously absent from Hong Kong would not be eligible, save for special reasons. Well, the Guangdong scheme and Fujian scheme count as an exceptional circumstance for participants who are continuously absent from Hong Kong. They would still be eligible for the vouchers. Good afternoon, this is RTHK. As for the criterion of those who depart permanently from Hong Kong, many of them who leave Hong Kong are not migrants. They simply relocate to a different place for work or study. So for a person who has been continuously absent from Hong Kong from the 18th of June 2019 to 12th of June 2022, or those who submit a valid claim request for withdrawal of MPF benefits, would they be barred from receiving the consumption vouchers if they tell you that they are not migrating, they are simply relocating or living temporarily somewhere else? Would they still be eligible? You said that for those who stayed just a day in Hong Kong, they would still be eligible. So for those who depart permanently at recent times, would they still be eligible? Why don't you, well, the book fair will be held in July, so why wouldn't you disperse the consumption vouchers early so that they could use the vouchers earlier? So permanent departure from Hong Kong, well, there's no definition on what migration means. So this time we would consider three main factors. For those continuously absent from Hong Kong the whole period, they would be ineligible. They could lodge a review if they wish. They could argue with justification. Well, perhaps I should not disclose the reasons. Well, they could request a review with the Secretariat. So the criterion is not having permanently departed from Hong Kong nor having such intention, so you can submit proof to show otherwise. For instance, if you claim withdrawal of MPF benefits, you must make a statutory declaration. You are applying to withdraw MPF benefits, and the MPF trustee would look at the particulars and is satisfied that you are permanently departing from Hong Kong before releasing the benefits. If you make a request but you did not actually leave, you can submit proof otherwise that you are not actually migrating. So it's hard to come up with an exact definition. Well, but this is our policy intent. We would look at the circumstances of each case or application. That's how we would deal with the applications. For those who recently departed from Hong Kong, again, it's hard to define what is meant by a recent departure. Again, we will look at the three factors. That is whether you were continuously absent from Hong Kong during the period specified, and whether you have submitted a valid claim request for withdrawal of MPF benefits, etc. We will look at all these factors. You asked whether the vouchers could be dispersed by July. We want to offer more options to the public, and we introduced 2 new SVF operators. Last year we had 4 operators, and registration started on July the 4th, and the vouchers were dispersed from August. So the systems of the operators had to be updated. They had to carry out system development, testing, interface with our systems, and all these take time. And unlike last time, there were 2 batches of users. Some could receive the vouchers earlier, and this time the registration period lasts about 1 month. We hope all eligible individuals, including new and existing registrants, well, we would complete the testing work within about 1 week, and at the earliest, the vouchers could be dispersed on August the 7th. This is the end of the press conference. Thank you very much.
唔該晒，Victor。唔該晒。